Hodson. Good to see you again.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, everybody else.
And we've got quite a few problems to get through here.
Yes, we have.
Lots of letters. We've got the first one. Well, it's quite interesting, really, isn't it? If I read it, you can understand what we're going to ask you to do in just a second. Dear Philip, you read a letter from a girl called Julie from Blackpool, and her problem is exactly the same as mine. The problem of blushing, and I thought it would be good for us to write to each other. If we could be pen pals, we could help each other. So please send this letter on to her. Well, we would, except there is a problem, isn't there?
Yes, Julie from Blackpool, if you're there, can you send us your address? Because you didn't do that. And we can't send on this second letter, which is from another Julie, to you, until you actually cooperate. What we think is the best solution, really, is if the second Julie would like to have letters sent to her, we're very willing, if you at home also have the problem of blushing, very willing to forward those to the Julie who's written today's letter. And also, if you want a pen pal, we'll also arrange that. So drop us your letters to the address that Sarah will give you.
All right. Going live, BBC TV, London, W12, 7RJ. And that's the address for growing pains in general as well. Right, now let's move on to the second letter. I'm 11 years old. My parents are about to be divorced, and I have to choose who I want to live with. And I want to live with my father, but I don't know how to tell my mother. I really love her, but I prefer to live with my father. I would stay with my mother every weekend, but during the week I would live in Manchester with my dad, where I have lots of family and get on with them really well. Please tell me how to tell my mum.
Well, you're in a no-win position, aren't you? And you've been put in this position. You didn't ask for this to happen. And what you really got to tell your mum is that you can't have what you want, because what you want is for them not to break up. So in that sense, it is not your fault, is it? It's not something that they can really blame you for. And the guilt that you're feeling is something that you could reconsider. What you say to your mum is, look, I love you very much. Give her a hug, give her a kiss, tell her that. But say, since I can't have what I want, I've got to choose something that I don't want. And because my family, perhaps, and my friends are in Manchester, it's on that basis that I'm going to be with Dad. But I really do care about you as well, and I really wish none of this was happening. And I think she's got no answer to that.
Dear Philip, I'm 15 and a half years old and have never had a boyfriend. I've never admitted this to anyone else, but in June last year I decided to say that I'd met this lad that I really liked and was going out with him. I'd planned on telling everyone that I'd fallen out with him after a few weeks or so, but my telling lies got out of hand and I carried on making up stories about our relationship. This carried on for about a year, in the course of which this boy died, to get me out of introducing him to people. But by then I'd invented other friends and relatives of his. I've lied so much, and I know one of my real friends knows it isn't true. I feel extremely guilty, and I cannot face telling everyone that I've lied to them. Please help.
Yes, well, you know, you don't have to confess. I think that's just your guilty feeling. You're feeling so bad about this. And what you want to try and do is say to yourself, look, I may have made mistakes. I may have got myself into something that I now can't really very easily control. But when people ask about the other invented people, what you can say is that this is all too painful. It's a closed book now, and I'm not going to talk about that. And you draw a line. You really shift that to one side. What you say to yourself is, yes, maybe I made a mistake by starting to lie. But the reason for which I made that mistake was something I'm not going to blame myself for, because I was simply shy and lonely. And those are not your fault. If you're going to start lying, you have to be a criminal mastermind, and there aren't very many of us. You have to remember your lies and your fibs for life and make them all hang together, otherwise you'll get caught out. So you've learned the hard way that lying maybe is not for you.
Dear Philip, I want to tell you my secret, but I'm very ashamed of it, and I don't feel those around me care enough about me to listen. My problem is too complicated to go into, but my secret is that when my mum is away, I look through all her drawers and read her letters. I know that this is an awful thing to do, and if she found out, she would be really angry and upset, but I can't help it. Once I tried to tell her that all I wanted was for her to love me and look after me, and I said that I wanted support. She laughed. I'm falling behind with my schoolwork, and I've got mocks coming up soon. I'm 16, please help.
Well, first of all, this is not a terribly uncommon thing to do. At least 2 people on this programme confessed to me when we discussed this letter that they'd done that, and I did a little bit of this when I was young. I think the usual motive is just curiosity, because your parents have had a long life, haven't they, before you were born, and you're just nosing around. But your motive is different, and I think rather more sad, because you're cut off from your mum. You don't feel you've got any intimate contact with her, and that's what you're trying to get by looking at her secrets in the letters and in her drawers. I think what you want to do is say to yourself, I did a sensible and grown-up thing and it didn't work. I asked her to love me, but she can't deal with that. We do have a bad relationship, and you have to acknowledge that. You're not going to have a good relationship out of nothing. But maybe, what I thought was, maybe if you said to her one day, at a good time, when she's not too stressed, what was it like when you were 16? Tell me about that. I want to know. She'd probably like to tell you, and by beginning conversations of that sort, from her point of view to start with, maybe you can gradually build up more of a better and a closer relationship with her. If you carry on just poking in her drawers, eventually she'll find out and the relationship will get worse.
Dear Philip, I'm a girl of 15 living with my mother because my parents are separated. They always used to argue, but now my mother takes it out on me when things go wrong. Since my little sister was born, my mum has lost contact with all her friends and she doesn't go out anymore. So each time I want to go somewhere with friends, I don't dare ask her because she'll say something like, "You go and enjoy yourself then, don't mind me," ironically meant though. And then I feel guilty. I've become totally isolated and have few friends left. If I try to talk to her about it, we always end up arguing. I'm afraid it will affect my future. Is that a bit like the question before?
I thought they were similar, that's why I put them together, and I agree. I think it will affect your future, but I also think it'll affect your mum's future, you know, and it'll screw up both your lives. Because what she's trying to do in this sort of guilty, manipulating way is almost, and don't misunderstand, marry you. She's trying to make you her replacement partner, and you can't be another husband for her, another partner. And really what you've got to learn to do is say, yeah, I can see you're jolly lonely, and you don't want me to go out, but I've got to go out, I've got to have a social life, so ta-ra, but why don't you offer, say, to babysit on Wednesdays and Saturdays, any time she wants, so that when she decides that she can go out and will go out, she has the opportunity to do that. And I think if you offer her that deal, it will make it easier for you to be quite firm. Otherwise, you're not going to have a social life, and she's never going to have to deal with her problem, which is basically that she must move on now. If she's very unhappy, she's got to talk about that to other adults, rather than dumping it on you. The alternative, of course, is that she's never going to move on and you're going to be stuck for life just listening to your mum's complaints and never really growing up or becoming independent. I have a lot of sympathy with you, and it's a difficult row to hoe, but I think you've got to press forward.
Good luck with that. Good luck. Philip, thank you very much for this time. You're back with us in January.
Yes.
We've been covering quite general problems. Are we going to go for anything more specific when you're here next time?
What I thought from some of the letters this time was, let's look at bad secrets of whatever sort. If you've got something that you never tell anybody and you really want to, but you don't know how to, maybe you'd find us a safe place to tell those things to. So drop us your letters.
That's the whole idea. Thank you very much indeed,
Thank
Philip.
you.